Alright, 2.61 has been out for a little while now. I didn't initially release a video just because I wanted to play through it from several angles and in several different ways just to get a general feel for any of the bug fixes, the back end, some of the changes that have been put in place, and on the whole, I like it. They did a good job, but there are still some things that are needing of attention, and I'm kind of surprised that some of the larger front-end issues weren't fully resolved. I know with some of the next versions they're looking to get the mega map and some other coding things put into place which should fix some of this, but I just wanted to call some of that out. So the first one that got fixed was the ship spawning. In the previous version, 2.6, probably about 90% of the time I could not spawn a ship, whereas now I just have to try a different terminal and I can get into it. They also put in the redone Super Hornet model, which I really like. It's a lot cleaner. It looks a lot better. The texturing is much better. The cockpit feels a lot better. The panels and displays match more along the lines of the regular Hornet, and it just looks a lot better. It looks more functional. What is still broken though is you can't actually use the UI on a lot of these yet to actually manage the power assignments to shields, weapons, engines, things of that nature. I know it's still coming and they're working on a lot of changes to that. It's just really annoying when you're trying to dogfight or do things like that, and to have had those features and now have them taken away, you really notice that they're gone. There's still some bugs along the lines of the HUD where my radar bubble was way too large, but those are kind of nitpicky. By far, I think my largest complaint was to deal with the dogfighting. The Super Hornet just did not feel super anymore. I really didn't have a good chance to test the flight mode that they'd put in, especially in dogfighting in the previous version, 2.6, just because my ship felt like it was balsa wood and it just exploded after you breathed on it. In 2.61, I won't say that the Super Hornet feels super, but I don't run into as many instances where one shot blows the ship up. There are times where some of the opponents seem to be shooting me at angles that they can't, and later we'll see a ship that appears to be driving on rails. And there's other ships, and I believe the Super Hornet's in there as well, where it feels like at times you're shooting yourself and doing self-damage. But as we fly around here and I'm shooting at these guys, they seem to be taking a lot of damage before it actually impacts them and takes them out. With how hard and how close I am hitting them with all of my weapons, it just seems kind of surprising that they last so long. Especially some of the 350Rs. These ships are designed for racing, yet they're stronger than my Super Hornet at times. Later on, I actually get destroyed by a 350R, which is crazy. I know I took a lot of damage, but it's just surprising to me that these things designed for racing are so heavily armored and shielded and powerful with weapons that they can take you out. Now in the flight mode changes, they rebalanced the weapons and did a whole bunch of things, and one of the major things that you might notice is as the weapons shoot, it's kind of hard to see here in a dogfight, but if you just shoot them straight, you can actually see the point where the weapons cross and the laser beams start going in opposite directions instead of coming together. They really did change a lot of things to try and keep the pilots as close together as you can. They want you to be really up there and see the whites of their eyes, as it were, in dogfighting. And while at times that's fun, there's other times where it's really annoying. The wing mounts on the Super Hornet are the first ones to come into range, and you really have a hard time sniping with them now and picking people off from a greater distance. While I'm not expecting them to do a ton of damage, it would be nice to at least get the opponent to shift instead of jousting with me or something like that. Now, I've been bouncing around with these guys for a little while. I'm just now firing up my afterburner to pull away and come back. It is a much nicer system to do that instead of having to go in and out of cruise mode. It is a bit annoying to have to hold down the afterburner button all of the time if you're maneuvering to keep it going. I know there's a toggle option where you can hit a button, it'll turn on, and then you have to hit a button to turn it off, but in the heat of a dogfight, that's almost worse. The only time I'm really annoyed by having to hold it is if I'm out flying around just randomly and trying to cruise to different areas. Likewise, the maneuverability when you use the X key, I forget exactly what it's called, but you pump a bunch of extra power into your thrusters and your ship becomes a lot more maneuverable. It is nice, but it does burn through that extra fuel really quickly, and it does not regenerate as fast. While you seem to have a lot, it takes a lot to get it back. So this is about 2/3 of the way through this particular dogfight, and I end up dying here. There was a couple multi-crew people out here, and that's why so many ships spawned. Now, I was doing a bit of maneuvering with side, lateral, dorsal movement, vertical, along all the different axes of movement. At various times, as you can see by the square direction movement flying off to the side, I'm kind of spinning all over the place trying to dodge all these shots, and I'm just getting hammered here. You can see my shields are going nuts. I know I'm taking some hits, but like I'm flying at this guy, he's hitting the front of my shields, and my rear shields are what went down. And then with my shields up facing the direction of fire, all of my rear panels got damaged to red. So some of the damage registration still seems a little off. Now I'm doing pretty good unloading on some of these guys, and if you look at his ship, he's got only his front shields left, and his ship's got a tiny red spot in the back right and some yellow, but otherwise he's doing fine. Again, I know that the weapons can be upgraded, and I know that you can add new weapons to the ships to improve their power, but it's called a Super Hornet for a reason. It's supposed to be somewhat space superiority out of the box. And that's where I think the game still needs some adjustments to it, because I've fought Auroras that have taken me out, and these are NPC Auroras, not player Auroras. I know the Auroras have some very capable abilities, but the NPC ones that don't shoot missiles and don't really do anything shouldn't really be taking down a human-driven Super Hornet. Now, I'm not the best pilot, I'm fully aware of that, but these ships seem to take a lot of damage. I mean, that's a 350R that I've just been wailing on. I know I missed a fair amount of shots, but I also hit a fair amount of shots, and I still ended up losing to him in the end. Now, my ship did take a ton of damage throughout that, so it was probably about time I blew up, but again, still seemed a little funky that they outlasted me in that. So now I'm in the 85X, doing some fight with an Aurora here. The 85X is not designed to be a dogfighter by any means, so I really don't have any illusions of grandeur in flying it around. It's just a fun ship to cruise around in. The front of the ship I still think sits a little bit too high. It takes up a lot of your view, especially if you're doing planetary excursions or anything like that. Using it as the snub fighter it was kind of designed to be, or snub ship. But it is a very fun ship to fly. The weapons are capable for light usage. I think shooting light ground targets or in passing just enough to annoy somebody and scarp her away would be plenty good. But the ship's a fun thing to fly. Part of the main reason that the front seems to stick up so high is they have not yet fixed the field of view, and they have not put in any menu options that allow you to change the field of view, which is still a massive annoyance to me. I don't know why they tightened and made a lower FOV the standard. I mean, what was there before was pretty good. I thought the previous one, I think it was like 60, was pretty perfect. Lined up very well. Maybe it was 70. I don't remember honestly, but it was good before, and now it's too tight. I've seen some talk on the forums or from maybe some other YouTubers who are more active in the news that they may be adding a slider, or they're looking at ways to address this, which is good. But the first thing they could do is just simply revert back to what it was beforehand. So here is another dogfight, kind of highlighting some of my concerns with the shots and damage registration. I don't think it's quite balanced yet. The way the damage impacts the ship and looks, if you've seen Around the Verse or most other videos, it really does look cool. When you shoot your ship, you see the burn mark, you see the armor finally wear out, then you see the internal structure of the ship, parts coming off. It just looks fantastic now, whereas before damage was kind of lame. You'd see a little piece fall off and it would kind of detach as an entire piece, whereas now it actually seems to respond to the damage that you give it, and it looks really good. Now, in 2.6, I did have a big complaint where my gimbaled turrets would just lose their guns almost immediately. That is no longer the case, but there are still instances where I lose the gimbaled guns, or I'm sorry, the turret weapons, way too easily. I'm not sure how they're getting through a brand new ship's shields, but earlier I didn't put the footage in here. I don't know if I recorded or not, but I didn't have it in there. And for some reason, 2 shots and I lost my nose turret again. It's only happened twice, but it's still really annoying. Now this ship that I just was flying, if you saw it a moment ago, it came in and it looked like it was on rails. It made some very funky movements and jerky motions that did not seem accurate, which, I don't know what's going on with that or how they're pulling it off. Because the ship, even if you use afterburners or even if you're using the extra maneuverability modes, they shouldn't just dodge around like that. That's crazy. That's also why at times I believe that they're shooting at me in ways that they shouldn't be able to. I've had an Aurora make it look like they had a gimbal turret on top of it because I was kind of behind it and above, and it was still shooting at me somehow. Now maybe I was desynced from the server, and that's why some of the hit registration is so screwy, whereas the bots that are driven by the server were able to nail me perfectly. That's perfectly acceptable. But man, is it annoying to have these ships pulling stuff off that just does not seem possible. Now, talking about the servers, they did add the region servers, and that has helped a lot. I was able to boost the graphics back up to medium, and I'm still getting about 25 to about 35 FPS. I think I've seen it rise a little higher, but those centralized servers really make a difference. A moment ago I talked about damage registration and how it just does not seem right. Maybe I'm desynced or something. This ship was taken out. You saw me take the engine out and it was still taking damage. I've got another one here where I just took a lot of power on it, nailed it down, but this Cutlass, I'm still wailing on it here. You can see the sparks of every shot hitting it. Its shield seemed to come back up and then it finally got destroyed. Here's another example. I've already damaged the ship to the point where it can't fly. After about a minute of pure hitting it, I'm finally getting it to stop. I'm parked here, so all of my shots are hitting it. It's damaged. It has virtually no shields. How is it taking that much damage from a Super Hornet at almost point blank range? That's what I'm talking about with hit damage registration. Maybe the weapons aren't balanced in any way, but these Cutlasses and even some of the 350Rs, they just seem to take an insane amount of damage before they actually go down. I think that Cutlass was the one that took out my my nose turret, because in this footage now I no longer have a nose turret. But even so, that Cutlass should not have taken that many hits, even though it was stationary, damaged, and I had taken some damage to my weapons. It couldn't do anything. I'd taken it down to the point where it couldn't fly anymore, and it still lasted that long. So now with that said, it sounds like I'm being pretty negative on dogfighting. In 2.6 it was a very negative experience, but with 2.61 I can see what they're going for. If they can fix the registration of damage and other things, I think it'll be a lot of fun. I do miss some of the ranged ability. I'm sure they'll bring some of that back with newer weapon changes, but man, dogfighting now is a lot of fun with this new flight mode. You really have the ability to move around and do a lot of stuff with it. Now, look and feel, I've mentioned in some previous videos before that the game looks fantastic. With graphics on medium, it looks really good. Even on low, it looks really good. But the essential set design, as it were, and the way they've built the environments, you feel like you're on a real station that's been blown apart, gone through hell. You feel like there's a battle that happened here, and you can almost read the story in these shots that are blown into the wall. And as we look over here, you can see where the shots tore through the grating on the side, the steam in the area, the flickering lights, the problem signs, the areas that are closed, the breached airlocks. It tells a fantastic story without ever needing dialogue or anything other than just the environment here. The big cable ties that go through the station, the pumping, everything about it just screams fantastic environment. And that's the look and feel that really sells this. Even on some of the planetary tech demos, the environments look good. I know they're sparse at the moment without a lot of vegetation or all that, but that will come. It's just moving around this station and then popping back out into space and seeing the light and the dynamics of it. It really sells the game, and it feels fantastic in these moments. Even though it's a very, very like pre-alpha type build, it's still a ton of fun to go do these things, especially with the way they've sold it. Now, Yela here, Yela, I keep pronouncing it wrong, however it's said, the asteroid field is still bugged where you can't see all of it, but when you're down inside of it, it still looks fantastic with the redesign. I'm out here at Grim Hex just cruising around, and this goes back to it. The original Grim Hex looked pretty cool, but it felt more pristine. And in the loading images, they showed a big battle where it was being taken. And now that they've kind of redesigned it in 2.6 and added some of the environmentals back in, like this torn cable that's blown off and the alert lights and the sparks, again, it just tells that story that this is not the happiest place to be, and it really does a good job of the storyline. Even though there isn't really much of a story to tell at this point, it sells it. Now, flying around, there's still some bugs. This is me flying with a friend in the jump seat in the back, manning my turret. I'd rescued him from somewhere and was heading off. The ship actually completed the transition in normal time, but it was lagging so bad that it hung out. Here you can see my friend getting into the ship, and the animations, while much faster and clean, still aren't quite lined up to the ship. I know that's not fully in place, but that, coupled with the minor issue of the illumination on the bodies not finished, some things to fix that are visually annoying but not detrimental to the game. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.